There we go. All right, so I'm going to show some vector drawing. I'm just going to do a new blank file because I don't really need the reference to just demonstrate that. But what I might do is color the background something darker so that we can see. Let's do something like that. And vector tools, by the way, are something that it's completely appropriate to use the mouse for. You don't have to use a pen, and I wouldn't recommend it because the mouse has left and right click, and it's a little bit easier to do more precise clicking with the mouse, I'd feel. So I'm grabbing the pen tool right down here, and if you never realized it before, several of these tools are all vector tools. The pen tool, the text is technically a vector tool. This little arrow down here, path selection and direct selection, they're both for vector objects. And then down here, these shapes are all vector objects as well. So it's a little grouping down there. If we want to start with a shape, we can. If we don't want to, then we can just use the pen. And oftentimes I will just use the pen all by itself because you can make any shape you want with it. Before you start clicking around up at the top of the screen, the only important thing to note is, are you using a path, a shape, or are you trying to use a pixel mode? I don't think I can use pixels right now because it uses fill instead of stroke. Let's see if I change that if I'm able to. Nope, still not. So I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to use the pixel mode, but I thought that you could. Maybe that's with the shapes instead. Anyway, the difference between path and shape is that path is a sort of more utility that it will appear in your paths window. You can save them and load them and combine them. If you're new to vector, I wouldn't use paths. It's a little bit more complicated. Instead, shape will make a layer in which you can just edit and remove and delete and arrange your thing that you've drawn. So it's a little bit simpler, the shape mode. So if I just click without dragging, I get sharp points that go directly between each other in straight lines like that. You can see that it closes the shape for you sort of automatically if you have a fill. If you don't have a fill, then it's just lines. But it doesn't really matter if you complete the shape, it will treat it as if it's closed, except for that the stroke isn't on it, which is kind of interesting. Then if I come all the way to the end and click on the original point, you get this little circle next to your cursor to indicate that it's going to close the shape, and now it's a completely enclosed shape. Okay? If you want to edit these points, then holding down Control is one way to do it. It'll allow you to move the whole thing around. Or if you single click while holding Control, then drag, you can move individual points. So I can rearrange these however I want, place them all over. If you stop holding Control with the pen tool and you just hover over a point, there's a little minus to indicate that you can delete these anchor points like that. And if you hover over a line segment, it'll give you a plus to show that you can add a new line segment. However, the new ones tend to have Bezier handles like that. So if you want to edit the Bezier handles, add them or subtract them, that would be holding down Alt. So when you hover over a point while holding down Alt, you get this sort of up-facing arrow. And if you click, it will make the point sharp. If you drag, it will make the point have Bezier handles, like that. So we can go drag, drag, drag. And now we've got a bunch of smooth points. Besides that, if you hold down Alt and instead of dragging on the point, you drag on the Bezier handle, you can break the tangent handles and have it aim anywhere you want. So with all of those combined, you can place the points anywhere. You can add and subtract points. You can make them smooth or sharp. So it's just a matter of carefully moving things around before you can make absolutely any shape whatsoever. So I could sharpen that one, move it down like that. They're really weird shapes. Does that make sense?
I forgot this was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, Photoshop's not known for it. Illustrator is an entirely dedicated program just to vector tools. If you really like vector tools, I'd recommend looking into and practicing Illustrator. But this limited functionality in Photoshop is really, really useful.
Wait, is Illustrator cost money or is it free?
It's in the Photoshop suite.
Oh.
Yeah, it's in the same collection. You can also see that you get this little icon on your layer to show that it's a shapes layer. If you want it to not be anymore, you just right click it and choose rasterize. And now I could draw an erase on this however I want to, because it's no longer vector, but I can no longer edit it either. Okay. Let's try a shape. So we've got rectangles and rounded rectangles. They've got this new thing in recent versions of Photoshop where there's this hovering little circle here, which is pretty cool because if you drag that, it changes the amount of bevel essentially on the rectangle. It's kind of a nice little interactive thing to do. I find though that these pop up, these little circles, on just normal paths that I've drawn, and I don't know what they're doing there, like how it indicates whether or not this is supposed to be a beveled corner or not. It's a little bit confusing, so I tend not to use them and just stick to the Bezier handles, but maybe it's useful. If you try to draw with the pen tool on a shape that you created from the shapes tools, it does yell at you a little bit sometimes. This one didn't. It was yelling at me earlier saying, hey, you can't do that, you have to convert this. And I said, okay, sure, convert it. And then it was fine again. So I don't know what that error was, but just read it, don't panic. It should be fine. But you can start from a nice basic shape like this and then get, I don't know, whatever this is. Kind of a double-ended horn or something. Okay. Bow tie, perhaps. One other thing that I show in the tutorial, let me get rid of the stroke because it's kind of ugly. There we go. Is I show that you can use clipping masks to color anything that you've illustrated several different colors. So for instance, I'll make a new layer above this, and then let's just use a rectangle. Let's draw it like here. And we'll make this color different, so we'll get rid of the stroke, color it as yellow, and then right-click the above layer and say Create Clipping Mask. So now, there we go, I've got the same horn shape that I had before, but the inside portion's yellow. And the best part of that is that I can still edit either one of them however much I want. So I can, oh, okay, so there's the error. This operation will turn the live shape into a regular path. Continue. Sure. I don't know why it gave me the error for a rectangle and not a rounded rectangle, but there it is. So I can still edit these however I want, like that. And you can add as many different clipping mask layers as you want. The one problem might be that when you try to move your original, the clipping mask doesn't go with. So you have to select both at the same time or group them, and then they'll all move together. Not really too big a deal, but something to consider. Cool, cool.
Cool.
Okay. Any questions? Want me to open up one of the more practical examples?
Sure.
Like that one? Actually, that's the demo one that doesn't have anything in it.
Nice reference.
This one. Yeah, that was the reference. This one's the complete one where I used that to illustrate over the top. I mean, I don't know what you want to see here, but there's some pieces. This part, I wish I had done this different. I did actually use a gradient on that, and I didn't show how. Where is it? Sleeve, hand, arm, boot. What you can do sometimes with your movement tool selected, hold down Control and click on something, and it'll go to the correct layer in your stack if you lose track. So here I've got the hair as one big shape. Sometimes if you double click on these, you can edit things after the fact. Like here's the gradient that I have in the angle. But I don't really like the fact that it just cuts off there. So what I should have done, there we go. I've got multiple shapes on this one. I wonder why it allowed me to do that and it wasn't allowing me to do it elsewhere. So multiple shapes you can't combine together. Really, they should just all be like one big shape. But for some reason, it didn't do that. I wanted more space down here. So I could come down here, add an extra point, drag it down here, smooth it out a little bit. That way it doesn't cut off so abruptly. And I guess do it over here as well, even though this is kind of stupid. There. Just so it doesn't suddenly terminate just right at that one spot. So that's a little bit better at least. Anything in particular you guys want me to show or explain? Because that's all we're here for, is to help you guys problem solve if you have problems with your own assignment or what you're attempting to do, or if you didn't understand something that I lectured. And we can also cover past assignments as well.
I just hadn't used vector tools in Photoshop, so.
Yeah, I mean...
And I completely forgot about vector tools, so I'm glad we went over this.
Yeah, I mean,
I have no idea what's going on.
we're using vector tools. They're not like the primary thing Photoshop is usually used for, but in graphic design they would be more heavily used, just not for illustration and production design. They're really useful for a lot of different things. Like if you want very, very specific shape to something and you need to tweak it a little bit at a time, it's a lot easier to use vector tools than it is to draw and erase repeatedly to get that very, very picky kind of shape. You can also save these as paths, so you could make sort of your own stencil out of them and then use them with the custom shapes tool down here. So like up here, that appears to be a tree. Let's see. Yep, it's a tree. There you go. So there's somebody saved a tree stencil for the defaults in Photoshop. But you can make your own. So if you had, I don't know, maybe in texturing that could be useful, or there could be other reasons. I usually don't, but decals and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be very useful in texturing.
Are you joking? I could have used this kind of thing in the past. I'll do my own studying and see about vector tools because this could help me out a lot.
Yeah, you can also save just like patterns and stuff if you want like full textured things. Then define a pattern. You can do right here, and so that could be
It
fully.
really helps with texturing.
Yeah, this could be fully like photographic or something if you wanted to.
I'll look into your previous
Okay.
how to do this kind of things.
There he goes. It's running along. Okay. Great. Do you guys want to cover anything in Unity, animation menus, how to go about things? I think this one's pretty straightforward. We're taking it slow.
Okay, hypothetically.
Yeah.
Remember my pixelated Mario running thing?
Yes.
So I wanted to try to import it at one point as like an animated thing cut out.
Oh, into Unity?
Yes.
Okay.
But it didn't work, obviously, so I had to roll with just what the tutorial told me to do, and I wanted to know. I know there could be a way to make it work, and I want to know if you can teach me some of your magic.
Yeah, let me find something set up to do pixel animation real quick. I'm just looking at my own folders to see if I've got something convenient here somewhere. Here we go. Okay. So I've got this project from way back when where I did a bunch of pixel art stuff. So like this one, for instance. There we go. Yeah, that should be good. So this is a bunch of different poses for this particular character, split into 2 rows. Is this how your pixel art looked when you tried to bring it into Unity, first of all?
No,
Okay.
It was mostly just like a GIF.
Okay. Then let's do a different thing. I have a couple GIFs in here. One is a yappy dog doing that, which is cute. And the other one is the guy dying. But we can take this into... Were you using Piskel for it?
Of course.
Okay.
That's the only one I know how to use.
So we can take this into Piskel. Actually, you had already animated in Piskel, right?
Yeah, it's already...
Okay.
It's the same project I did long ago.
Yeah, then step 1, you can export from Piskel as a sheet. Or you can export as individual frames. Yeah, so let's do that. I'll open up Piskel. Piskel.
Oh, this is going to be good.
There it is. And we'll create a sprite. And then let me put this on the desktop so I can find it more easily. Copy that, paste it there. And I'll also copy this one, paste it there. All right, now I don't need to have that open. All right, so we're going to import right down here. And I'll do the animated GIF first. So assuming, what did I call it? Stealer. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. Stealer. Sneaker. Stealer, that guy. Alright, so I'm importing as a single image with animation. But like you can also import as a sprite sheet, which is pretty cool. I don't know if that'll spread everything out. I think it does, but let's just import the animation. Yeah, replace this one. So here's what we've got. A bunch of different frames. And you can kind of see the preview up there. So what we want to do then is to export, and we can choose a bunch of different settings up here. So a GIF is probably what you were doing, looping it, playing it, that's fine.
I attempted to anyways. Obviously, I failed miserably.
Well, this PNG setting, you can say, how many columns and rows do you want to export? And it will export all of your individual frames. I do have to count.
I had no idea that you could do that.
So I've got 12. I think it's started at 4x3 so that I would get the right number. But you could set this to like 1 column, and then it says, okay, 12 rows then, or 2 and 6, something like that. 3, 4, right? So you're going to get 12 images out of this because it's 12 frames long. So we'll say, yeah, sprite sheet file export right here, download, and that goes into my downloads folder. And now I've got this. Bump, 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 bump.
That's wonderful. I had no idea you could do that.
So the great thing about it is that these are all perfectly sized. They're all the same size. They're all laid out right. So if you know the size and you know how many you've got, you can automatically set that up in Unity. But notice this. See when he dies and he's got like this flower? There's really only one of those. We don't need all of these other ones. We only need this last one down here. So we could animate inside of Unity, moving that up and down and not have such a big sprite sheet. Or we could just leave it like this because it'll look more like, pixel animation. But we'll just leave it like that for the moment. You can also do zip archive containing 1 PNG each for each frame. So we can do that. And you can also split it by layers if you have like overlays. So I'm going to do that one as well. There it goes. And I'll open that. And so now what we get is this. So there's one. There's one. There's one, right? They're all individual. That can have the same animation applied in Unity as the sheet, just with a slightly different setup. So you can do either one. I don't know what this other export as a C file. Okay, I have no idea what that means, so don't mess with that one for now. But PNG's got those options. You can also export a single frame, just whichever single frame you want. And with GIF, is there anything else? I guess not really. Just download it or don't. Okay. Does that make sense? Is that cool?
Yeah, actually, it is.
Okay.
This is so cool. You know how bare bones and new I am to all of this.
Yeah. So let's
I
then.
don't know much about Pixel, anyways, but like this is something cool I want to use.
So here's what I'll do then instead. I'll make a new project, 2D project, and we'll just do like a pixel thing, and import it to show how those animations are set up. So it's just doing it over there. When Unity starts a project for the first time, it takes a long time, even if there's nothing. Yeah.
We've all been there already.
Mm-hmm. So as soon as it's done, I'll just drag in those files to show how they can be set up. I'll drag the animated GIF in there too, just to see what Unity does with it. I don't know what Unity's going to do with that. Be interesting to see though. I've also got this other one, the sneaker one, because it's got several different kinds of action in the same sheet. And I believe that you can set those animation clips in the importer if you have a sheet, but I might be misremembering.
Ooh.
If not, it's pretty easy to make the clips just individually, but I think that you can set it in the importer for animated sheets. Either way, it's going to be a similar process. Oh. Come on, Unity. Set that project up.
Oh, it's chugging. It's chugging it.
Go, go, go.
Come on, man. I feel like it's a snail pulling a barrel.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay. So let's drag in. Oh, I got to have the project window. We'll drag in the PNG that I just exported. There it goes. Okay, so here it is being previewed down here. Up in the inspector, you just want to check that a few of the settings are the right ones. We do want it to be a sprite, which it was. Sprite mode is going to be multiple. Pixels per unit could be important. In this case, we won't change it, but for pixel art in particular, you should probably set this low, like really low. I'm going to set it to 32 pixels per unit, which is very, very small, but it will make it look nice and big in our environment. Mesh type for this, I'm going to use full rectangle because that's what a sprite sheet essentially is, and I don't want it to generate a shape for me. The last bit that's important typically, or actually alpha is very important. Make sure that we do have transparency if you need it. But wrap mode and filter. So the filter, if I leave it at bilinear, let's just hit apply. And then actually I'll change this back to single for a moment and hit apply. So I can just drag it into the environment. So there's my character. I'm going to zoom in a bit. See how it's a little fuzzy and indistinct? I mean, I did have to zoom in really close before we saw that. But that's because of the filter mode. So if I change this from bilinear to point and then hit apply, now it's just nice sharp blocks. Interesting though, there's a little aliasing here, which may have been when I changed it to a GIF, then put it into Piskel, then exported it again. There's some aliasing that I didn't put in the original art. I think that's why, and not really something that Unity did. But it's a little annoying that it's doing that. Okay, so let's select our imported object there, change it back to multiple, hit apply, and then go into the Sprite Editor. So this Sprite Editor here allows us to slice this up into individual sprites. And up at the top, there's a bunch of different modes. Custom outline is really only important if you're trying to make colliders for the thing. Or sorry, if you have a very tightly packed art. This one's for custom colliders. The skinning editor is for 2D animation tools, which really doesn't have any place right here. Same thing with secondary textures. So we just want this first one, Sprite Editor. And slice, we can either slice it up automatically, just let Unity guess, which can work sometimes, or we can do it in a grid, and we can also do it manually just by dragging like that. Like that's a sprite now, that thing that I just dragged. It's not a very good one because it's just kind of randomly, haphazardly placed, but it's a sprite, so we could have it. I'm going to delete it. So let's do by cell count, which is my favorite one. In this one, we just have to tell it how many columns and how many rows do we have. So I've got 3 columns and I've got 4 rows. And then you could also include padding, which is blank pixels around the thing that you're making. You could also offset it, so if for some reason you didn't have a perfect sheet, you could say, I want you to start a few units over or something. And then you can set the pivot point, which the center is fine for this. I'm going to hit slice, and so now if I hit this little rainbow strip, it turns off the color, just so that we can see a little bit more easily. We've got perfectly spaced and sized sprites for every pose. We hit apply, and we'll have those. The one extra thing that you sometimes want to do is name them. When you click on an existing slice, The name appears down here, also its size and position and everything. You might want to name them sometimes. In this case, they're just sequential, so it doesn't matter. But on the other one, it might matter. I'm going to close that. So there we go. So now we've got this film strip of all these different positions. And it turns out, now that I'm seeing it, if I click on this, there is no animation setting for pixel art being imported. That's fine. We're just going to make some animation clips then. Okay. And if I drag these out individually, you can just place them anywhere you want right now. They're just like objects. Cool? Got all that so far?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. So let's do an animation then. So I've got this animation window down here. Nothing in it because there's currently nothing that I can animate. I don't know when I drop that out, but I'm going to delete that. I'm going to make an animation clip in my project view by right-clicking, creating new animation. There's a bunch of different words that are very similar. I'm an animation controller, animator, override controller, animation. I want this one. And I'm going to name this clip die, because that's what he does. With that selected, I should be able to view it. Yeah, there we go, in our animation window. And now we have to populate this with something. There's absolutely nothing in here right now, because normally you would start from like a rigged character or something, but I'm just going to pop this up here in this window so that I can open up my sheet and drag in one at a time these poses. And as long as I do that, then I'll have some animation. So I'm drag this up. Oh, I can't place it. Maybe I have to do something else. Oh, I see. Yeah, what I did wrong is I'm not doing anything to this yet. I think I have to have something to start from. Right now I have 0, right? So I actually do have to, let me put this back down here. I have to drag one of those sprites into the main view to have an object to start from. And if I just drag this animation clip onto the inspector, then it will add it as a new controller that it created for me right down there, and assign this animation clip to it, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. It assigned the animation clip for me. So it kind of did all the hard work automatically just then. But just know that there's a lot more to it than this, and you probably should watch my other videos about how to set this stuff up if you really want to know. But
Oh, I will.
long story short, we can now do the animation. So here we are. There's the object. And we could now add properties to this. So what I'm going to add is the property. And you can actually do this if I just hit record. I could do it up here by right-clicking this and saying I want to add a key to it. This is the sprite in the sprite renderer. So this is the name of the one that we're showing. The sprite renderer is the thing that controls that. So I can add a key there. And so down here, and if I open this, it'll show the little tiny picture right there. That's saying on the first frame, I want it to be this sprite. So then I can determine my frame rate for this by just saying how many frames forward do I go? Do I skip a few? Do I make it like every 5th frame? Do I make it every 1 frames? I'll say with pixel arts, artwork and sprite animation, you should probably skip a few. Like 4 frames, or sorry, 4 frames per picture is okay, because the frame rate's usually very high, like 30 frames per second, and this makes it feel a bit more retro. You can even go to 5. It makes the math easier if you're working at 30 frames per second. So let's go to 5, and then I'll change this. Now that it's red, I'm recording. I'm going to change this just to the next one, to 1, and then I'll go 5 more frames, and I'll change it to 2, and then I'll just keep doing this until I run out of frames. 3, 4, and I think I could grab a whole group of these and just throw them on the timeline, and I believe that Unity would figure it out, but don't quote me on that. We'll try that next to see if that works. I feel like there was a fast way of doing this just by grabbing a whole group. I just don't know what it would stretch it out by in time.
There's a safe but long way, and there's the throw something at the wall and see if it sticks the other way.
Yeah, I would always try something easy and lazy as a test to see if it would work. Because, like, why wouldn't you? If it fails,
That
you're
was
just
cute.
stuck doing it the long way. It's fine. All right, so there, 11 is the last one because it starts numbering at 0, but we have all 12 frames. So I can hit play, and that's how it's playing right now. And then if I wanted this to play slower or faster, I would want to stretch out these keyframes. These are the keyframes at the top here. I can grab all of them and then use this scale to bring them down to like this, for instance. Now they play very quick. Or I could stretch it out further. Let's see how far will look okay. A second and a half is the play time. They did get a little bit staggered here because I'm just scaling keyframes. It's usually not a good idea to do that, but I can always move them manually now to snap them back to whole frame numbers. It looks like every 8 is what I'm at now. Let's do 32, 40, 8, 56. What's this, 104? I think my math is off. 12, 120, and 128. So not quite a second and a half, but now if I play it, it's a bit slower. Cool. So you can also animate other things, though. Like I was mentioning that we don't need this over and over and over as a frame. We only need that one. So what I could do, let's see, when's the first time we see that? We see it right here. I could grab and delete these. And now he's not going up and down. He just pops down there at the bottom. But I could also key the property of position for this. So the position, let's add a key. I'm adding it right here before the thing moves. And I'm going to also add it right here when it has to go back to its normal position. And then in the middle, I could set like a keyframe right here. Say we want it to go up and hold for a little while. And then we want him to fall down right into the position before. So I actually want him to go right here. And probably a little bit lower so that he hits the bottom. Bonk. Oh, that's too far. Close enough.
Thank you for doing this, by the way. This is all very new to me.
No problem.
I've never, confession, I've never actually made a 2D game or anything like that.
That's cool. You're in a school. It's the time to learn.
Because I want to, spoiler, I'm going to just spoil it to you right now.
Sure.
The game that I want to make multiple of has to do with Snake.
Okay.
So, at first I was thinking, how about I just make it a 3D game? But now, I think maybe it's time I start practicing 2D. And
2D tends to be easier to start with, at least.
True. I'm still going to start it out with 3D, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the Snake game 3D, but on the side, I'm going to do some studying and see what I can do about learning some 2D stuff, because I might want, maybe now is a good time to start learning that, because I don't know much about 2D at all.
I think it is a good time to start, yeah. I mean, you've got time, and you've got the resources available. Yeah.
And I have you to teach me, because, I mean, right now you're doing this, and this is really good. Like, my goodness.
Let's see, what am I doing here? I'm just going to make this broken tangent. That. So I'm tweaking the animation variables. The benefit of moving it in Unity is that you could move it every single frame regardless of what your pixel art is doing. The downside of that is that it doesn't make it look very retro if you do that. See, it starts moving smoothly just for that like little fall, which I think is less charming, but you do get, a greater control by doing something like that.
That is true. Though then again, if you really want to go full retro, just snap immediately to the dead.
Yes, exactly. So let me go back to the dope sheet then. There's other stuff we can do as well just to show off when he initially, like here's his upward sprite, this one. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to move all the animation down just a little bit. Just going to slide it. And I'm going to give him a little red flashing animation before he spins. I'm going to go ahead and paste this. Oh, I got to use keyboard. Paste. There we go. And so he's going to hold on that frame, and then he's going to do the rest of the stuff. But I'm going to make him flash red by changing this color. So like, we can do that. And then, depending on how fast you want it to flash, again, like danger of creating, seizures or something like that. But we'll just do white and red. And so I'll copy those. Where's the color? There's the color. So I just want to copy these. And I'll go paste, paste, paste like that. And then make sure the last one is white so that he stays that for the rest of it. So now we've got that. Probably a little too quick now that I'm seeing it. So let's delete about half of it and then spread these out. Something more like that. So like every 4 frames, I think. Deselect. There we go. And then probably don't need that one. So how about that? There we go. Yep. Make sense?
Ooh, yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty good thing that you asked because I wasn't covering pixel art animation in the course. We have to cover 3D rigging and animation, and that takes so long that we're doing 2D puppet rigs instead of pixel art. And so it's nice to be able to cover this, at least informally, to show a little bit of the basics of this because it's really fun to do.
I think it does more justice informally, just because the fact that you're also demonstrating how to make it work in Unity as well, not just the total, just like, oh yeah, do this, do that, or here's how it's could look, or blah blah blah.
Now I did skip a bunch of stuff, so keep in mind that the animator component, right, that needs to exist. That creates this logic sheet up here about when things trigger and when they don't, and that's where the animation clip resides. But besides that stuff, this is basically how you set up your animations at the very least.
Of course, but it's still a good rough explanation of like what you're looking for,
So I just pulled in the GIF, the animated GIF, and it looks to me as if, okay, it's got 1. What if I tell it? Is there a mode for this? What if I tell it it's multiple? Will it extract the frames? No. Okay, that was too much to hope for. So just wondering if I gave it the animated GIF, would it remember that there were frames in there? No, it seems to treat it as if those frames aren't real and that all we have is this single image. So, oh well, I didn't really think that would work, but good to know. I do have this one though, the other character, and this one's got a bunch of different animations in it. So I'll set the scale to 32 pixels per unit, multiple, sprite, mesh type of a full rectangle, no physics shape, alpha is on, and filter mode at point. So that's all the stuff I did last time. And then in the Sprite Editor, here he is. We'll slice him up by cell count. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, 2 rows this time. And just to check, there we go. So the poses here, this is his idle pose. This is pushing up against a wall to sidle back and forth, which I don't think I have other animation frames. It's just like a single. Here's sneaking. Here's tiptoeing, which I don't know why I have one up here and then another down here. That's weird. This is another sneaking, so this is one side of sneaking, this is the other side of sneaking. Here's tiptoeing, more frames of that. Maybe this is meant to be involved with that one, I just don't remember. Here's sprinting. And so all of these different actions that he can perform. The process is basically the same though. We just define different orientation or different combinations of frames for different actions. So I'm going to take that and, whoop, that's the wrong guy. Where'd he go? There he is. I'm going to drag this one up into our view. Why is he so much smaller? It's weird. Maybe this other guy was actually scaled up already, and this guy was not. So let's zoom way in. There he goes. And there's those that weird anti-aliasing thing again. Now, my original art does not have that, I swear. Actually, I should open it with a different viewer so I can see it better. Open with this one. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, it's very blurry because this picture viewer is not showing pixel art very nicely, but there's definitely not multiple colors in there. So something's weird about how it was imported. Oh, I bet it's this.
Look into that later.
It's probably this right here, sRGB color texture. If I turn that off. Nope, didn't seem to help. Point is definitely correct. Input texture alpha is probably correct. Oh. Compression. No?
Oh.
No good? Compression, none. There it goes. Okay, I was on the wrong guy. It was the compression. So compression is definitely a good thing to have for most projects, but pixel art's tiny. You don't need to compress pixel art, so just don't. Just turn it off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there we go. All right, now he looks much better. Okay, so that must have helped this other guy too, because I was accidentally doing that on the wrong setting. So just change it to none. To none, there we go. All right, so now he looks nice and crisp. So let's set up some animations for him. I'll do it the long way this time, which is to add a component, which is, for some reason, in miscellaneous, animator. This takes an animation controller, which is the thing that you make in the project view. Animator controller, and we'll call this sneaky controller. And then we attach that to this component by dragging it right in there. And this is just the logic that will play various clips of animation. In the animator, here's what it looks like blank. There's just nothing. And then we could create different nodes right here, but we don't really need to, because if we make an animation down here, it will just automatically generate some nodes for us. They'll just kind of cascade. So
Nodes?
yeah, nodes are the ways that it transitions from thing to thing. So if you're standing still and you hit left or right, then it'll transition to walking, for instance.
That explains it.
Yeah, that kind of logic. So we'll just hit create down here now that we've got him selected. And it wants us to save this, and I'll just say this is idle. So what does idle look like? Well, it's just going to be a certain sprite. So I'm going to record, change it to the sprite that's right, which is this one. That's idle already. I'm just going to add that key, and then that's it. That's the entire clip. It's just that one frame. I could add a certain amount of time because it helps with transitions, but pixel art is just individual pictures, so I don't really need to do it. So we're going to add a new one, and for this one, I'll call this one Sneak. And we'll do the same thing. We'll record, and we'll change which one of these we're using. So I think it's this one that I want to do, starting from 2. I'll go ahead and go 5 frames at a time. 3, 4, 5, and then I think maybe 6. Okay, and then what's the next one? 7. Okay. I think that's correct. Let's try that. Okay, that's really, really fast. So let's slow it down a lot. Sneaking should probably take a whole second, maybe 2 seconds. Let's go 2 whole seconds. Okay. There is a little bit of a problem I see in that he's teleporting around a little bit. So he takes this step and he moves a tremendous distance. This one's consistent. Actually, all three of those are, and then he moves a tremendous distance. So I need to move the character between those steps. Otherwise, it's going to look really weird. So starting from here to there, he needs to actually move. Okay, so let's key the position and then offset. This is now correct, though. But if I don't have it moving in the meantime, like here, it's going to look weird. It's going to look weird no matter what I do, I think. Let's take this position. Okay. That has to go here. This one has to go here. So I kind of have to define some fake pixels or some fake poses in here myself, or I have to just trust that somehow this is all going to work out when the animation controller is moving around. But I thought it looked really strange that he just kind of teleported. It may be that I'm making something out of nothing and that it is just going to completely work right away, but it looked pretty odd to me. I think maybe I was being too picky.
Nonsense. No, I understand your mindset.
It's possible to be too picky. In fact, it's easy to be too picky, and you got to be vigilant about that too. Don't allow yourself to just be a control freak for no reason. You know.
Touche. A friend of mine, my best friend, once told me that the bare minimum is just fine.
Yeah. Viable minimum product is what you call it. Okay, that actually looks better. What I did is I just copied the first pose to the end so that for just a moment we see that again before it loops, and now it feels fine. I think I was making something out of nothing. So what I would do here, if I don't want to move...
It does really look cool.
Thank you. If I don't want to move this position, then I can eliminate this by removing the property, and now this animation clip doesn't even contain that value. So that's kind of nice. Let's try another, because I know I have more in there. The next one was Tiptoe.
I feel like you were trying to find like some sort of flow, because like you didn't want to immediately snap to like the movement. You wanted like that middle part where he was, you know, transitioning.
So interestingly, 7, this pose right here, is used I think for tiptoe and for sneaking. It's like the passing position of the sneaking, but it's like this contact for tiptoe. Sick. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I planned that or not, but I guess it's working out.
You might have subconsciously.
I might have consciously. It's been a long time, and I don't remember what my mindset was anymore. All right, let's do that. I think that's it. Yeah, because the next one is running, so that's it. And then learning my lesson from last time, I'm going to copy-paste this last pose to the end. Okay, too fast. So let's slow it down. This one, I'll just go for 1 second. Yeah. That seems about right. That might be too slow. But we can also do things a little bit more complicated than that. So here I've got this midair pose, right? Well, what I could do is I can copy that and move back. Let's go back to here and paste it. But then I can use the position value to have it like ease into position, even snapping like pixel art would. I'm going to key position right here, and I'm going to key position here because that's correct, both of those. But this one, I'm going to just move it down that much. But I'm also going to make sure that the curve is just teleporting from position to position. I don't want it to ease at all. So I'm going to tell it to do flat tangents. Whoop, that didn't work. Both tangents, constant. There we go. Constant means hold that position until I tell you otherwise. And so it just teleports in a position. So now I've got that. So it gives a little ease on that motion. I don't really like it very much. I didn't like it. It was an interesting thing, but
I understand. Oh man.
it might have to be in the same timing as the rest of these frames to make sense, I think. So if I made it, that's a mistake, there we go. Make it every 10 frames like this. There we go. Now that one's going to be slower, but it'll at least change at the same moment. Yeah, okay, that's better. It was the frame rate. I needed the frame rate to match. So now here we've got that, and he touches down. And if I want him to have another mid-air pose like this, I do the same thing. Copy that, move both of these 10 down, and paste it, and then have a position value saved. So let's key here. Essentially, I'm making fake frames for my pixel art right now, just by reutilizing the same position. So I'm just going to copy the Y position wherever it was changed. There it is. Copy and paste it over here. And then just because I want everything keyed, I'm just going to do that. And let's just make sure, yep, they're all stepped. So he's got this little mid-air kind of adjustment. I still don't really like how it looks, but it's an interesting kind of demonstration that you can reutilize your pixel art like that.
Agreed.
I could also be doing things like stabilizing his head in midair if I really wanted to, but I don't think that's necessary. Or wise. Neither necessary nor wise to be doing it. Yeah. Kind of cool. All right, and then the last one was sprint. And for that one, it's just the last few poses. So they're like 11, 12, 13, and 12 again. 11, 12, 13, and then 12 one more time. And then to make it loop properly, 11. Booking it. I should probably just make that twice as slow. There it goes. So what we can do with these clips then is in the animator, here they are. The orange one is the default, it's the one that will go to first, and here are all the other clips. We could set up a parameter that allows us to change between these animation clips, and probably it's just going to be speed. You know, how fast are you going? So I'll make a parameter, a float called speed, and then I'll make transitions like this and like this, going back again. If I wanted to, I'll just do it one way because I'm lazy, and this is not really the way I'd do it. I'd probably use a blend tree, but there's no point in covering that. So this will be, as I increase speed, he'll do a different animation. So I have to say on this arrow, use speed, and if the speed is greater than 0, transition. And then in this one, if the speed is greater than, I don't know, 3, transition. And then on this one, if the speed is greater than 7. Okay, so that'll transition. The thing that's going to be interesting is how this plays back, because pixel art does not transition very well. It's just images. So we might get a really bad looking transition out of this, but let's find out. I'm going to move the animator down here so we can actually see. And hit play. So right now he is playing his animation. Apologies, let me zoom in the camera. Whoop, there we go. Alright, so he is playing his animation right now, but his animation is idle. As in, don't do anything, but you can see it flipping around right here. So as I increase this value, will you let me increase it interactively? No? Okay. So as I increase this value, he transitioned over to sneaking. Oh, there he goes. Now he's transitioned to tiptoe.
This is actually really cool.
And now he's transitioned to sprinting. So it looks like this works fine because the way these transitions work is just to have an exit time, and the exit time is the start of the animation clip, and then transition over a quarter of a second. But there's nothing that this thing could be transitioning, so it just pops to the next animation and it looks just fine. Ideally, what I would do is say, don't have any exit time and have a fixed duration of 0. So it will just instantly become the next animation, and that would be better. And I would do that for each of these. So essentially, instantly transition, please. That's what I'm telling it to do. There we go. So then we could make it go the other way, where as you go slower, it goes down through this stack. Or there's even more complicated things like a blend tree that you can use, but this is the simple kind of way to show it. Cool. Fun, huh?
Oh my.
There it goes. And you can never go back down again because I don't have any transitions for that. So it doesn't matter if you stop, you'll just run forever. Cool?
Yeah.
Answer some questions about how to do this stuff?
That was an interesting lecture.
Great. I did it. I'm a teacher, guys.
You did it!
I'm a real teacher. I just got my wings. And my mortar cap has come down from the heavens and gone in my head.
I'll give you the gold star.
You know, that
So his people need him.
that flat cap that all teachers wear. That's a thing, right?
Actually, I think it was that one, like as like a joke.
I don't know if it was a joke. I think it was just like the hat of office, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
I mean, it's hard to believe, but I think so. It is awfully silly.
Yeah, yeah, but very lovable.
I might wear a silly hat like that. Just why not?
That'd be so funny. I just walk into class and just see you wearing a hat
Yeah.
like that.
Bring it with me. Just put it on specifically to teach. Take it off when I leave. You know? Yeah.
You know how awkward it's gonna be for me to like try to not like make glances at the hat because I'm the type of person to like
Yeah.
look at details, but like sometimes just like look at it multiple times.
Not only that, there's a tassel dangling from it. It would get in my face all the time and whack people.
Just take off the tassel and smack it.
Yeah. All right, you guys. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, then I'll stop here and go eat some lunch. Up to you. Any more?
Thank you as always.
I think you deserve some food.
All right, man. Thank you very much. I will see you
Thank
guys
you.
next meeting.
See you
Yep.
next